Okay. I hear a little background noise. If we could, as you come in, please mute yourselves. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started now. So it's Ryan Mulvaney with TAG. Appreciate you being here. You know, this presentation today is coming at a very interesting time in what's going on in the world. And so the idea behind this webinar is to recognize what's happening in the marketplace from a sales standpoint in particular, and make some adaptations and modifications to our approach as salespeople, as sales leaders, so that we can continue creating opportunities and having success despite what is going on in the environment. So what we're focused on today in particular from a sales standpoint is looking at a new way of talking to prospects, a new way of looking at prospects within the customer base. So, you know, the way that we are selling today is very different than how we were selling, say, 8 weeks ago. The environment has changed, behaviors have changed, people's availability and accessibility has changed. And so as salespeople, what do we need to do to continue with momentum, continue our efforts towards developing opportunities? And so, you know, it's interesting. The last month or so, I've been working with a large portion of the TAG members and their teams, and I'm noticing two types of salespeople right now in the environment. You know, the first one is a salesperson that's throwing up their hands saying, well, no one's going to buy right now, so why even bother to reach out? No one's taking calls, etc. And that person is, you know, that salesperson with that mindset is going to have a really rough time here in the next X number of weeks and months. But there's a second type of salesperson that I'm also seeing, which is very encouraging, is that the second type of salesperson is observing what's happening around them right now, recognizing that, yes, although it's not easy sales environment, but with the right adaptations to the approach and with the right shifts regarding activity, and with a little creativity, we can choose to come out of this whole situation stronger as a salesperson than before. So let's go ahead and get into it here. And out of respect for time, I want to make sure to keep this under an hour. So we'll keep it under that, and we'll open up questions at the end if anyone has them. And so for now, we'll keep everyone muted and then open it up to dialogue at the end, okay? So what are we going to cover today? You know, there's going to be a few key areas. One is going to be looking at a framework for how do we make the phone calls reaching out to our customer base. And we'll get into a framework because one script doesn't always fit all, and there's usually not just one silver bullet that we can reach out for all opportunities. So it helps to have a framework or a roadmap that we can plug in whatever we're trying to accomplish to a consistent framework that we can accomplish our goals. And whether that's, you know, towards trying to build goodwill or sell a solution or identify a timely opportunity around remote workforce, what does that look like? So we'll get into the framework of how we do that. Then we will also get into how we shift our activities with going from net new prospecting to customer base and identifying what's relevant to the base right now based on what's going on. And then we'll also get into building goodwill and looking at how do we go into our customer base with a prioritized approach and build goodwill, secure the base, and really create a foundation to build up the pipeline and create future opportunities. So first step is adapting. What are we seeing in the marketplace, and what do we need to do from a change standpoint to shift our efforts a little bit? You know, momentum is a huge piece in the sales side of it. We feel successful when we're generating opportunities, we're setting appointments, we're progressing them from one step to the next, and we're closing deals. Momentum is powerful in all things, but especially in sales. And so what we don't want to have happen in this situation is stop the momentum and stop our efforts that have gotten us to where we are today. So we want to shift those. So what does that mean? Well, net new sales, let's face it, net new prospecting is very challenging right now. Going after a brand new prospect that doesn't know who you are, doesn't recognize the name of your company, and frankly isn't very open to receiving a call at this time because they have a lot of other things on their mind, then that's going to be a pretty tough sale right now and a pretty tough appointment to set. Not that we shouldn't also be doing that as part of our mix, but what we're suggesting is why not look at our customer base as the best prospects we have right now, because they are. Because we already have an existing relationship. We know quite a bit about them. We know what solutions they have. We know what challenges they may be having based on the products or solutions we have in place right now. And we have a good relationship with them, probably on multiple levels. So why not take a look at them at a closer look and see what can we do to go in and add value to our existing base right now, or at least secure them and build goodwill by reaching out and having those conversations. So in doing so, what we're going to do is reach out to the prospecting, reach out to the customer base from a prospecting standpoint. And so we're shifting those efforts of prospecting, whatever that time allocation was before 8 weeks ago. It's probably freed up some time because we're no longer door knocking. We're no longer going out and seeing clients in person for the most part. All that is shifting to more virtual, and frankly freeing up some time because most likely the success of net new prospecting has gone down a little bit. So we want to shift some of that time and the effort towards proactively reaching out to the customer base. So let's start with mindset, because that drives everything. The way we look at this is that we are pretty fortunate being in the technology industry because we are an essential business, right? So we still have the opportunity to go out and create opportunities for our customers and for our prospects when a lot of other sales professionals don't. Think about it, sales professionals. As salespeople, we all know other salespeople, and if you look at different industries, some have no chance of making any sales right now. For example, the car dealership industry. A lot of dealerships, at least around us here in Southern California, are actually shutting down their branches, and because they're just zero business coming through the door. So fortunately for us, we are in an industry where we have a tremendous amount of opportunity right now to reach out and have great conversations about how we can solve some of the problems of the remote workforce with a number of the shifts that we're seeing, because we have the right tool set, we have the right product portfolio to go in and solve some of the problems our clients are having, because we are an essential business. So think of it that way, is that although the environment is a little bit crazy right now and there's a lot going on, we are in an industry where there is still a tremendous amount of opportunity. And so we need to think now is a time to prime the pump or fill the pipeline. And, it's really going in and starting those conversations. There may be some that will immediately close and there's urgency there. And there may be other opportunities that we plant seeds for, to reap the benefits weeks or months down the road. But think of now as a time to start generating those opportunities and taking advantage of that in a positive way. There's a phrase here that I heard from one of our other tag members. His name's Dan. He's in the Phoenix area, and he mentioned this when we were having a sales strategy call the other day, and it really stuck from a concept standpoint. And what it is remote today, virtual tomorrow. So we talked a lot over the last 4 to 6 weeks about the scramble of deploying the majority of our customers who aren't closing their doors but are still trying to work remotely. We scrambled to get them up and running at home. But in a lot of cases, it was a Band-Aid approach or a temporary fix. It wasn't thinking in terms of they're going to be working from home for months and months, which in some areas, that's maybe what it turned into here. So the idea here is remote today, virtual tomorrow. We scrambled over the last several weeks to get people working remote, and with mixed success of some being more productive than others and some having better tools than others. But tomorrow and next week and next month, there's tremendous amount of opportunity to take it to the next level of more of a virtual environment with collaboration tools, with security, with accessibility, and all the different divisions of our businesses, whether it's on the voice side or IT, cybersecurity, et cetera. So there's opportunities that are shifting into the virtual environment. We'll get a little bit more into that here. So when we are reaching out to the customers, and because we're seeing them as the best prospects right now, why are we doing that? Well, one, it concentrates our efforts. So it allows us to go in with more of a rifled approach to a customer who knows us, and we know what kind of solutions they already have in place. So we can really hone in on how can we help them. And it also allows us to build goodwill. If we reach out to our customers in this time and simply, even if it's nothing else than just checking in on them and asking how their business is doing and what shifts they're doing internally and with their customers to get through this challenging time, that's going to build goodwill, because they're going to see that we care. They're going to see that we're proactively reaching out and we haven't forgot about them. And then also it secures the base, because right now there's a tremendous amount of salespeople out there trying to make their numbers just like all the rest of us, and they're reaching out to your customers and talking about all these solutions. So if we get to it first and focus on that, then that's going to allow the security of the base as well. Because the last thing we want to happen is have someone else cold call one of our customers and talk to them about collaboration or remote working solutions that we have, but we didn't get to them fast enough. So it accomplishes quite a bit here, reaching out, not just identifying opportunities, but securing the base, building goodwill. And the cherry on top is that we will find opportunities in reaching out in this manner to the base. And it's going to be the highest conversion rate in terms of closing opportunities, because the existing relationship is already there. So where do we start? In looking at our customer base, we need to prioritize. Some of us have hundreds of accounts in our database, and some of us have thousands and thousands. And so depending on the size of your team, depending on the number of accounts you manage, then we need to get strategic and prioritize our outreach. And so there's a process we can go down, and there's a lot of different ways that we can segment the base, from a product standpoint, from a break fix, or a managed IT, or a recurring basis if they're paying us every month. So where do we want to start? Well, one place to start is that we can take a look at the 80-20 rule, which is, you start with 20% of your customers driving 80% of your revenue. Start with them, have those conversations with them first. So what we're doing here is we're breaking down what could be a very large list into a very strategic, targeted list with the accounts that we want to reach out to first, starting at the top. And so those would be those ones. Who's next? Well, maybe we look at the monthly support agreements. Who is paying us on a monthly basis, and what does that dollar amount look like? Well, that might come next in the list there, so we want to break that down as well. Then, once we do that, we can start looking at like a target of where we start in the middle, the best opportunities, and prioritize those conversations first, but we're going to work our way through it. So we want to make sure that we have a holistic approach to it, where we don't leave any opportunities behind, even though we're prioritizing them. So we keep widening the target. And so we look at like what's the next ring out from the bullseye, and we keep on opening it more and more and to recategorize the entire list. And so we can do that by looking at, again, the product lines, how long customers been with us, how large it is, the amount of revenue they generate, and also look at it from how far back has it gone. Is it 3 years, 5 years, 7 years back? We can look at customers that maybe have had support agreements that have expired, have done a project work with us years back. We can capture those opportunities right now and reach out to them and see if there may be simply an opportunity to re-engage And worst case, a check-in call is not going to hurt that relationship at all. Only good can come from that. And we keep on widening the net. And here at TAG, we're happy to go through and walk and hold hands through this process with you. If you have a large list of customer base and struggling to think about how we start breaking it down in a more manageable way and prioritizing it, we're happy to work one-on-one with you to go through this process and flush it out. So when we start doing this, when we actually start making the calls after we have the list in place, the question comes up, do we call the owner or do we call the primary contact? Well, the answer is both. But before we call the primary contact, if it's different than the owner, then we want to call the owner first. And why is that? Well, because the owner and C-level management have a different mindset right now around what's going on. They're looking at bigger picture problems and looking at deploying their team remotely, looking at supporting their customers while doing all this. And so the conversation is going to be different when you call an owner and ask how their business is doing versus if the primary contact is an office manager, for example, and you call them and ask how business is doing. Two very different conversations. Both are valuable that we need to have because we don't want to isolate anyone, especially if they're primary contact or we have an existing relationship. But the point is, back to prioritization, when we're calling, we want to make sure that we start from the top down. That way we have those conversations. And then when we do have that top-down approach, also the conversation we have with the owner can trickle down some of that content to the primary contact. For example, something may come up where a particular solution we can explore, but the owner doesn't want to get into the weeds. He pushes it down to the primary contact after we have the initial conversation, and then we're off to the races with the primary contact who was told by the owner, hey, this is an important, urgent initiative. Take this call from Ryan and get this going. This is something that we need to take care of for our remote workers. So if we start with that approach, and that way we capture the owner and the primary contact and any other relationships we have there, but we start it in a prioritized fashion. So we talked through some of that. The bonus here is that anecdotally, in working with many of the TAG members, have had at least 3 or 4 now over the past few weeks of sales reps share with me stories where they reached out to a customer that was there's a couple cases where it's a 3 to 5 year old customer they haven't talked to in probably a couple years. And they reached out, and although there was no opportunity there, in 2 instances, the owner said, you know what, we're all set here, but I have a peer, also a business owner, and he does not have any support on the IT side. He's trying to figure out how he sends his team home. Can you please reach out and tell him I called, or tell him I told you to call? And so it ended up being a referral in those instances. So again, nothing but good things can come from this and reaching out. Sometimes you get a little bonus of a referral that may even come out of it. So let's get into the scripting piece of it and the framework. So this is a framework that I pulled from one of my favorite authors, Jeb Blunt. He's written a number of books. This came out of his Fanatical Prospecting book. And it's a framework I adopted a number of years back because it is a great framework that you can use whether you're calling net new prospects or your own customer base, and you can plug in for whatever type of objective you're looking for to set an appointment by reaching out on the phone. You can use this framework as a starting point to do it. So it's a 5-piece framework. First part is get their attention. The second is identify yourself. Third is you want to tell them what you want, and then bridge to the because, the reason why. And then ask for what we want. So bring it to life a little bit more. Let's break down each one. So for getting the attention, the best way to get someone's attention is by using their name. If someone says, Ryan, this is, immediately when they say Ryan, I'm listening, I'm paying attention. And so that's an easy way to start it off and get attention to the person you're talking to. And then very next thing is identify yourself. They need to know who you are. In this instance, the name the individual, the name of the company. Tell them what you want. And this is where we can start customizing for whatever objective we want. What do we want to accomplish? Is it simply to check in on them, or is it to schedule a Zoom call where we can explore an opportunity that we know there's maybe a potential struggle or challenge they're having with one of their remote workers or technology solutions they're trying to deploy remotely, etc. So why are we calling? And that's where we plug that in and customize it. This is another big customization step, is the bridge to because. So we can do it because it's for remote working capabilities and support, or it's because we want to help them with collaboration by helping roll out Microsoft Teams, or a number of other opportunities that we can look for. And then the critical piece is we have to ask for what we want, whether that's just starting the conversation with checking in on how's your business doing, or asking for a appointment for an opportunity to share something that we know could be a benefit to them. So let's bring this to life a little bit more now by putting it into some actual scripting. So this is where we want to start, is with the gatekeeper. Now, I know for many of you on the call, you're saying, okay, yeah, getting past the gatekeeper, that's no problem. It's easy. Why are we spending time on this? Well, there's other people who struggle to get past the gatekeeper. And so it's worth spending a couple minutes here on touching on some best practices or some better practices around getting through to the right person. Because if we can't get past the gatekeeper or the receptionist, or essentially get to the actual decision maker, the person we're trying to call, then we're not going to have any success. So this is an important piece, at least to touch on here briefly. So what do we say when we give them a call? Well, we keep it simple, right? So we say, good morning, this is Ryan with TAG. We support your phone system or IT network or copiers, whatever it is. And I need to speak with John. Will you transfer me, please? So there's a couple things you'll notice here is that we give them the information about who we are. We let them know that we're calling because we support one of their critical technology systems, which in today's world, it's going to help us get through, because if we're referencing their IT network or their phone system, or even the copier solutions, then that's something that is critical and essential for their business right now to keep it going. So in addition to that, these are our customers, keep in mind, that we're calling. And so that if we say our name and name of the company and that we support their systems, then there's a high probability that we're going to get through. In addition, we put a little urgency to this and familiarity by saying, I need to speak with John. Will you transfer me, please? And that gives the indication that, look, that John may be expecting our call, or at least we're familiar with John. He knows us, and we do need to speak with him. This is going to get us through to the right person the majority of the time. If we do get met with resistance, it's simply, they say, well, what is this regarding? They just want to qualify it a little bit better because that's what their job is. And then what we want to do is we want to say, for example, Dale Stein, the owner of my company, asked me to get a hold of John. Are you available to transfer me, or is there a better number to reach him or her on? So when we do this escalates it a little bit. In between the first approach and then the second one, this will get us through probably 70 to 80% of the time, just based on everything that we just touched on. So if you do nothing else, follow those and you'll get through the majority of the time. If you do get a little more resistance, you can say something like this. In most cases, you won't even need to get here, but in case you do, you can just expand a little bit and say something like, out of courtesy, we've been reaching out to our customers to let them know that we're here for your team and to answer any questions and provide support. How would you suggest getting in touch with John? Now you'll notice that at the end of every single one of these, we intentionally plug in a question, because what that allows us to do is guide the conversation. So if we're having these conversations where we want to maintain control and guide the conversation, particularly when we're trying to get past the gatekeeper, so that we don't just stop at a statement and a period, and then hand the control over to whoever we're talking to maybe push us in a different direction. So all of this will boil down to being very successful and getting through to the right people that you can actually have these productive conversations with. So then what happens when we actually do get through and start talking to our customer or the prospect or decision maker that we're trying to get a hold of? Well, we follow the framework that we just laid out. So it'll be a 5-step piece. So we plug it in here for easy example. So what does it look like? Hi, this is, or hi, John, this is Ryan with TAG. We support your IT network. The reason I'm calling is to simply check in on how you're doing during this time. Here at TAG, we want to let you know we're still here for you since we are an essential business. If you or your team have any questions or need any support, please don't hesitate to reach out. Now, how's your business doing? In about 20 seconds, we just let them know, they know who we are, why we're calling. We gave them a little empathy, letting them know that this is an empathetic call, letting them know that we're still here, we're able to support them. And we then end with a question and hand it over to them to then respond to that. So the whole goal here is that this goes from start to finish without stopping when you get the person on the phone, for a very simple reason of being direct and respecting the person's time. Because even when we're calling our customers and they're not expecting our call, we're interrupting them. So we want to get to the point. We want to let them know why we're calling, and then ask them a question, see if we can get them engaged. And then that starts the conversation. Now, at this point, we're gonna recognize that it's either we have two options based on what their response is, and their response is going to determine the next step. So if they give us a brief response, then we know that it's probably not going to go very far in the conversation. It may not be a good time, and that what we want to do, instead of trying to press too hard on that, since it is a first call, setting up empathetic check-in, is that we want to recognize that and say, okay, let's out of the two options we have, either continue conversation or set expectation for next call. If we feel that the response is not going to allow for a productive conversation, then we want to wrap it up and set expectation for a follow-up call, because that's part of this process, is setting up a cadence for checking in. If we can finish these calls with setting up the expectation of, hey, Mr. Customer, since things are changing pretty rapidly, would it be all right if I reach back out in a couple weeks just to see how you're doing, seeing if there's any other challenges or struggles we might be able to support you on, or just be a sounding board in what's going on? And the vast majority of the time, the answer is going to be yes, no problem, Ryan, I would appreciate that. And now we have a expectation that we're going to be talking in a couple weeks again. And that's going to be pretty valuable so that we can continue those conversations and continue to support the customers and identify if there's opportunities that we can bring in an actual solution to propose or a proposal to help them out. Now, that's if they don't want to continue the conversation. Now, if they have a response that actually opens up and they're sharing about what's going on in their business, they're saying, yeah, we sent everyone home remote 3 weeks ago. Some are doing better than others. We are noticing that our CFO is struggling to access some of the information, and we're not quite sure if it's set up securely. Well, that's going to be something we can jump all over and start talking about security, start talking about potentially a firewall in the home office, a VPN connection, all types of opportunities. And we would want to continue that conversation to really flush it out. And so how do we do that? Well, first thing is we have to listen. So whatever they're saying gives us an opportunity to either run with that or shift it into another topic. And so we want to listen and then thoughtfully respond and ask other additional follow-up questions and lead the conversation down a path that we can really explore if there's opportunities to support them right now. Now, some example questions, and we can build out pages and pages of questions. And this is where towards the end we'll offer support from TAG of how we can engage with you as a sales rep or a leader or your team to really build these out, particular for you. But there's all kinds of questions that we can start exploring to see where they lead down the path of opportunities and support. And one is, given the current situation, where are you at with having your team work remotely? Now, this is something that most were asking the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. Now, the last week or two, we're finding that most people most employees and staff that have the ability to work remote are pretty much already set up at home. Not to say that they're set up correctly, but they're working from home. They have their PC, their laptop at home, and they're doing some form of remote access back to the office. So it could shift into other questions on, now that you've been working at home, or now your team's been working at home for a number of weeks, what challenges are you seeing with it? Because the reality is we're all seeing a number of challenges working from home, whether it's internet stability, whether that's accessibility back to certain files or documents back in the office, whether it's just the ability to print or scan from home. There's all kinds of challenges that are starting to float to the top that will inevitably lead to something that we can wrap a solution around. So we want to find those questions that open those dialogues up. Now, another example is, how are you addressing the remote workers' access to the phone system? How are you addressing the remote worker access to your data, to your files and folders, to your customer information? And you ask it for security, for printer, scanner, etc. And those are all provide segues into conversations around those particular solutions. So another question is, many of our clients are asking us about collaboration tools. What are you currently using with your team? And then whatever they say, if it's Teams or Slack or a number of others, how's that working for you? The idea is to ask questions and then listen and use the experience of how important it is to them, and continue that conversation if it makes sense. If not, pivot and explore something else. Now, based on these conversations, we can get pretty deep. Some sales reps, some are more capable of going down a technical path than others. So in general, a good rule of thumb is that we want to probe enough with these questions to identify an opportunity. And then in a perfect world, we pause after, say, 5, 10, 15 minutes of conversation. We identify that maybe there's an opportunity to roll out Microsoft Teams because they're struggling with collaboration. Now, before we get too far down the path, once we've identified that, we say, you know what, I'm sure you're busy right now and I don't want to get too technical. How about we go ahead and schedule a engineering call, or a follow-up call where we can bring in one of my technical resources. We can explore this a little bit better and figure out if we can find a solution to what we were just talking about. Will that work for you? And then we can set up a follow-up call to do that. Then we can circle back to our team, talk about, look at this account, since they're a customer, we have their information, the number of users, etc. And then we can come to that call more prepared with a technical resource to then really dive into discovery and engineering, whatever the solution is needed to flush out that opportunity. And as part of this, we're using stories to lead into it oftentimes. So for example, sometimes from a lead-in standpoint, we may want to use an example of we're talking to a customer. We say, customer, we're receiving a number of calls from some of our customers talking about their executive teams and how they rolled out, a CFO, for example, is now working from home, but he's not quite sure if they're accessing their data and their information securely. How do we know, and what are best practices around that? And we're getting many of those calls. Is that something that you're experiencing or that you're dealing with as well? And they may say yes, they may say no. But there's a number of stories that we can either pull from their real life, or just think of what challenges or what opportunities are out there right now with our customers, and lead in with some of those. So we help guide that conversation through stories and lead the conversation through that. A big part of this in reaching out, since they are our customers, is that we want to take an empathetic approach to educate them, inform them, talk to them, because we are, they're looking at us right now as the technology advisor, as the resource. So we want to be that for them. Many times when this is happening, when there's distress, when there's the environment such as it is today, customers are looking for resources. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for leadership. And from a technology standpoint, we're perfectly positioned to be that. They're already a customer. So for us to reach out to them and talk about this and share insight and wisdom and what we're seeing and what we're doing with our other customers becomes extremely valuable, and it will be well received since they are already an existing customer. There's examples, another example of how we can share information. Even if we can't lead to a solution, we can still educate them, build goodwill just by sharing information such as, Mr. Customer, there are a lot of, I want to make sure that you and your team are aware of what's going on with the phishing attacks that are prevalent today, from everything about clickbait on here's cheap toilet paper, could be shipped to you tomorrow, click here and put in information, all kinds of scams around that, around a number of different things with the SBA broker scams, all kinds of phishing attacks and malicious attacks in general are occurring and trying to take advantage. Hackers are trying to take advantage of the situation right now. And recently read an article that is about 45% of home PCs or laptops are already infected with malware. And so if you look at that number, it's pretty staggering. And the last thing the customer wants right now is to get hit with a malicious attack like ransomware, something that could just be devastating on top of everything else that's happening. So if we can lead with some of that education that we're seeing and help the customer stay away from that sometimes is just as valuable, if not more valuable, to the customer than solving a problem or challenging the business with a solution. So lead with that as well, and don't discount the information and knowledge we all have around technology right now, and offer that freely and start conversations about that. Now, so in terms of actually reaching out and doing this, it all comes down to actually implementing this. It's one thing to take it in and say, okay, I have a couple notes. This sounds good. And I know that all of us are on a ton of webinars. So there's a lot of information coming at us. But one of the most important things here is that we want to reach out immediately and frequently. We want to set up a cadence of calling and checking in on our customers, having these conversations, identifying timely opportunities through those stories, through the questions that we're asking, and have those constructive conversations. And the best way to do that is going to be set up a cadence like we talked about, where at the end of every call, if we can set the expectation, whether we're going to call back in 2 weeks or 3 or whatever makes most sense for that account and for your situation, that's going to help build that relationship over the next X number of weeks and months, and come out of this when the dust does settle, be in a lot stronger position with that customer when they do start, if they don't buy solutions right now or are not open to purchasing anything right now, when things start to loosen up and they start to go back to a little bit of normalcy here in the next X amount of weeks or months, then this approach is going to set the foundation to have a really good opportunity to start moving on some of these when the time is right. So we want to maintain that connection, the relationship, as we're going forward. So as I alluded to here, this is something that I really believe in, is that knowledge is only powerful when you actually apply it. And so what really sets people apart is the ability to execute and do it not only effectively, but consistently. So what do we need to do coming out of this to actually apply what we're doing, what we heard here today, into our sales efforts? Well, one part is that TAG is a resource for all of you. TAG is here to help you be successful. We want to see that. We want to give you the support and customized support, knowing that everyone is in a little different situation, a little bit different products or solutions, a little bit different size of customers, verticals, etc. So we will be as hands-on as you would like us to be. Or if you just want to have a simple sounding board to share and bounce ideas off, we can be engaged from that standpoint as well. But what we're able to do, or what we're willing to do with anyone who would like it, is we can help go through and look at the customer base, starting from the top of the process is who are we going to call first? We want to prioritize our efforts because we know that we want to start with the opportunities of the customers that are frankly the most important to our business as well. And so we want to prioritize that list and make sure that we're calling those ones first. So we can help break that down, as we talked about, by product, by division of the company, whether it's on the IT side or the voice or the copier, etc. So we'll help break this list down with you as much as you like. Then we'll help develop the scripting using the framework based on what we're trying to accomplish. We can help customize the scripting, which I know we've done for even some of the people on the call here already today. And then we will help rehearse it, role play, and record the calls so that we can all listen and learn from it and provide some more feedback. And that's really where the most value comes here, is being able to do this piece. Is when we rehearse, when we role play with each other and record the calls, we learn a tremendous amount about how we sound, what the response is when we say things, what our tone is, where maybe we didn't hear something they said because we were thinking about what we were going to say next. And so it really helps optimize those calls and be more successful when we can record, we can learn from them together. And, all this comes down to, if you want to get any support from TAG on this, we're happy to do it on one-on-one or group calls with you and your team. So please don't hesitate and please reach out. Lastly, leverage TAG's marketing campaigns. So you've been seeing, if you're on the distribution list, which most of you, if not all you should be, is that we've, over the last 4 weeks or so, we've been developing a lot of different programs, one of which on the marketing side is the advertisements, TAG's marketing, and the advertisements that go out that are relevant to what's going on in the environment today. So here's an example of one we put together. We work with Sean over Hogan Technology to put together, our customers are ready for remote workforce. This goes out and this helps with multi-pronged approach, right? Because we're not always going to get the person on the phone. We can send customized emails as follow-up, but having something where we can set up a automated campaign or one-off campaign where we're dripping these out to our customer base, this is just another touch point that might come across, see it, resonate, and will do nothing but help when we do reach out with the phone call and start a conversation. They say, hey, I saw your ad, loved it. You know what, we are having this challenge here, or whatever the case is. It's another touch point to add on to the approach of making phone calls. Here's another one where, working from home is just as productive if you have the right technology, right? So starts a conversation, and frankly, it puts the name in and the phone number and information from the customers, again, as a different approach. Here's another one focused more on the cybersecurity side of things. This could lead into, you send this out to your customers, and then you can go down with the follow-up phone call, the talk track around are your employees, are they set up correctly at home from a security standpoint, and what does that mean? And go into explanation of it and reference the email that was sent to them. May pique interest. Remote workforce or remote working is not working. Here's what your employees are doing. It brings up a conversation about, do they have the right tools to not only have their staff be productive, but also to manage them. So this is just a sample size of some of the ads that we put out. We're working on these on a weekly basis. We're probably averaging about 2 ads a week or so that we keep on putting out. So if you're not connected with TAG Marketing yet, please reach out to either myself or Janet or any of the TAG team members, because we'll get you set up to where you basically, once you go through the process having the list, it's very easy to plug into the tag marketing campaign, click a few buttons, and schedule these ads to go out, customized to your company, your name. And many of our members are actually even allowing their sales reps, which I love and I encourage, because we did that when I was out in the streets selling, is that we would brand them and have our team brand the names on there as well, to where it's not only Hogan Technology, but it's, Ryan at Hogan Technology and my direct phone number. And in that way, it's going out to, if I managed a subset of accounts, then we're branding not only a company, but also the rep or the account manager who's managing them. So these ads can all be customized. Please use them. That's what they're there for. If you have any questions, let us know. So that's the end of the presentation here. As we talked about, none of this really matters unless you decide to implement it. And Tag, we want you to be successful. We're here to support your efforts. Please engage us if we can help with any of this and developing or prioritizing the list, customizing the scripting. We have a whole document that we can run through and put together, customized for you where it'll be a takeaway that you can have a 2-page document that basically does a framework particular to your objective and use that as a resource for you and your team. So with that being said, what I'll do here is I will open up to questions. There's a pretty large number of people on the call, so you all have the ability to unmute yourselves. Instead of unmuting everybody, what I'll do now is if you have any questions or comments, please just unmute yourself and you can ask a question here. And then if you would also prefer, just put it in the chat box. I'll take a look at that here too. We can address some questions before we wrap up. I did promise we're going to be done by within the hour, so we're going to do that here, but we'll answer some questions. And then, by the way, lastly, this has been recorded and it will be sent out as a follow-up too for you to refer to. So with that being said, any questions from anybody? Okay, so just got one into the chat. So question came in on what does support look like if we wanted to roll this out to the team. So this came from a sales manager. So what it would look like is, from a follow-up standpoint, hopefully your team is on this call and they saw this. This is a good foundation or stage to set. And then what we could do is I'll reach out to you directly and we can set up a strategy call. Typically starts with the leadership, the sales manager, and we have a quick call and discuss what does the customer base look like, how do we want to prioritize it, and what opportunities do we want to explore, such as solutions, etc. And from there, we strategize, we figure out what we want to accomplish with the sales team, what our goals are, and what would be a desired end result from that. And then from that, we customize a script and we bring in the team and we can do recurring calls either on a weekly basis or bi-weekly and have engagement with working with the script, rehearsing, role-playing, recording, all of that. So that's kind of an outline of the process in terms of if you wanted Tag to engage with helping roll this out to your team. With that being said, if you want to just have a strategy call and then you run with your team, happy to do that too. Like I said, it's as much support or as little as you'd like. You can customize it for you and your team. Okay, another asked about contact information. So all my contact information is on Tag's website, but I will also be sending out a follow-up email with this recording. So you have my signature line there with all my contact information. So you'll be getting that most probably here later today or Monday at the latest. And one other question, will the follow-up email have the slide deck? Yes, it'll have the recording from today, and I will also include just the PowerPoint, so you could just flip through that if you wanted to have that as well. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. If there's any additional questions, please reach out to me directly. Really appreciate the time here. Hope this was valuable. Again, please implement this. This is where it'll the rubber hits the road is implementation, and we are here to help support that. So don't hesitate to reach out and use us. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks. Have a good day.